Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I just want to do a little Q&A. I've been getting a lot of questions, so I figured I'd write some of them down and try to answer them. One of the first questions I get is kind of an easy one. It's like, where do you get these t-shirts from? And like, for instance, this one I have on today. I found this one on Amazon. Now, a lot of my shirts do come from Amazon. I have a different keto shirt probably. I don't know if a lot of you noticed that, but some do ask a lot of questions on them. They want to get this shirt and they want to get that shirt. I really don't remember where I get them all. I guess on Etsy or eBay or even mostly Amazon. But that's where I get a lot of my shirts. And I have way too many t-shirts. Way too many. T-shirts and hats. I have my favorites, but I tend to get more than I need. Yeah. So, all right, on to keto questions. One of the biggest questions I get are, what are macros and how do I start this diet? Well, the macros are basically broken down into three things. It's carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And how do you want to break them up? Well, the most popular way is 75, 20, and 5. I'm going to put that link right here, or that picture right here. And the way that I tell people is to get your 200 grams of fats. Now, you could be close. Just get close to that. It's not mandatory. Like for me, mine is a little different. But I'm going to go over that in a different question. And then your proteins and your fats. So it's just a way to keep track of them. That's all it is. That's all macros are. It's pretty simple. It's not really that hard. All right, the next question came from Shelly Mack. And Shelly Mack asked, how do I track my eating? And the way I do it is I've always done it on paper, okay? Now, I'm not a big believer in calories, but everything is kind of broken down in calories that you're going to see on your nutritional labels. They're broken down in calories, they're broken down in grams. So here's what I've decided to do. I went and got a BMR calculator. And that's just on any website. You just type up BMR calculator. I'll put a link below so that you have it. But a BMR is basal metabolic rate. And it's just basically the amount of calories that I hate that you probably burn in a day. So, for instance, mine is 2,175. And they'll ask you questions like your age, your sex, how much you weigh. And that's it. That's kind of how they figure it out. Now, they can go by your activity level, whether you're active, whether you lift weights, whether you are sedentary, stuff like that. And that'll get it more precise. But for me, I just wanted a basic ballpark, so mine is around 2,175 calories. So how do I break that up? Like earlier I said, the 75, 20, and 5. So I would take the 2,175 and I would multiply it by 0.75. And what that would come up with is that comes up with around 1,600 calories of fat, all right? And then I would do the same thing for my protein. I would multiply that by 2.0 because I want to get 20%. So I take the 2,175 and multiply it by 2.0, and it comes out to like 430, somewhere around there. And then I'll also do the carbohydrates. I'll multiply that, and I get like 108. So that's the calories. All right. So then, if I want to figure out my calories to grams, okay, you want to figure it out like this. So I have, say, 1,630 calories of fats, all right? And then there's going to be 9 calories per gram, okay? So what I'm going to take is I'm going to take that 1,631, I'm going to divide it by 9, and that comes out to 181 grams, okay? So I'm a little bit short of my 200 gram goal, but if I get it up there a little bit, that's fine. I''ll get it up, 180 to 200. I'm okay with that number. All right. And then for protein, I would take that 430 calories of protein, and I'll multiply that, or I would divide that by 4. Okay, now multiply 4 into 435 comes out to about 108, roughly, right in that area. So now I know that my grams are going to be around 108 grams. So I don't want to go that high on my protein, so I'll bring my grams down just a little bit. I want to keep my grams under 100, and I want to keep my fats closer to 200. So I'll cheat a little with those. All right, I want to keep my proteins down because my proteins can be turned into sugar through a process called gluconeogenesis, excessive protein. And now, even though I am working out now and I use a little bit more protein, I still want to keep it lower, and I'll risk the less of a benefit in the gym instead of the risk of getting more fat through the gluconeogenesis. I guess there's an argument either way on that, but I side on the fact that I don't want to become a bodybuilder. I just want to become lean and fit and healthy. So that's what my goal is. And whether I get muscle along the way or not, that's just actually a bonus. Okay. As far as carbohydrates, I take that 108 number that I had and I divide that again by 4 because carbs and proteins are the same at 4, fats again at 9. So I divide that by 4 and I'll end up with 400 or I don't know, 4 divided by 27. So I'll end up with 27 grams of carbohydrates. That again is higher than I want to be. And my total, I go by totals. Okay, I don't do the whole net carbs anymore. I've thought about it a few times and I've done some research, and I believe that I put this in a video before, but the guy that actually created net grams, he was basically doing it to get people to eat more vegetables. That's pretty much all it was. And a carbohydrate, a fiber is a carbohydrate that the body can't digest, so that's why they deduct some of that. All right, so it doesn't get absorbed. And I could see the point in there, and for me, I still go by total. And that's because I go basic. I don't try to sugarcoat it or cut corners or anything like that. So if I'm going to be honest to myself, I'm just going to say, okay, I'm just going to go with total carbs. If I say I'm only going to have 20 grams of carbs, that's it. That's what I'm going to have. But when I tell you to have that less than 20 grams, I don't mean go right up to 20 grams. Try and shoot for 0. Believe it or not, try to shoot for 0 carbs. And whatever carbs you end up for the day, probably it'll be less than the 20, and hopefully it's less than 20. All right. Steven Pasenko asked, "My cholesterol is high." He just had his blood work done. The LDLs are high. What's wrong with the keto diet? Okay. I bought a book recently called Cholesterol Clarity. It's written by Dr. Eric Westman and Jimmy Moore. And what they did is they talk about in that book, I haven't read it all, but I've got a lot of it done, is that the way doctors and hospitals and labs and stuff measure cholesterol now is such an old, outdated process. Now, it's broken down into a couple different categories, and you have your LDLs, which they consider bad cholesterol. They have the HDLs, which they consider good cholesterol, and they have your triglycerides. All right. Now, for me, my triglycerides when I started the ketogenic diet were 475, roughly, 477, I think they were, and that's ridiculously high. All right. So I started the ketogenic diet. Within 3 months, they were down near 100. All right, so I know that what I was doing was right. Now, the LDLs, I think your range is around low 150, somewhere in there. I don't know the number right offhand, but my LDLs went up a little bit, and my doctor was a little worried. And they still are a little high, and they don't like them. Now, here's the kicker. LDLs are bad when your triglycerides are high. And that means that your LDLs have these small, dense LDLs, or they could be these large, puffier LDLs. The large, puffier LDLs are almost harmless. Okay, they're not going to pollute your blood. They're not going to give you a heart attack or anything like that. The small dense ones, you're going to worry about if your LDL is high and your triglycerides are high. That's the one you have to worry about. Now, they have lab work tests that they could get done, but I believe there's only one place in the United States that actually does that test on LDLs. But the easy way to figure them out is if your triglycerides are low, then you have mostly the large, puffier, non-harmful LDLs, and that's not bad. So it's not always something you need to go crazy and worry about and go right onto these statins that they want to put you on. I told my doctor no, but everybody, it's your decision to do what you want to do. But I would say do a little bit of research on it before you just go start taking a drug that's going to reduce your cholesterol, because your body needs cholesterol. And honestly, only 1/10 of what you eat affects your cholesterol. The rest of the cholesterol that's in your body, you actually make yourself because your body needs it. All right. The other part of the cholesterol is the HDL, and I believe they want that above 45 now. I think I'm above that. I don't know my number exactly. I don't want to misquote you on anything. But HDL just means it's a healthier cholesterol, and it's what drags the LDLs through the blood system. They clean up kind of the LDLs that like to hang around and block up some arteries. Although the study more and more is finding that the cholesterol isn't really the culprit of most clogged arteries. It's mostly the inflammation and the sugar. Now, I'm getting more into that book where it's explaining this more. So once I know more about that, I will explain it to you more in another video. But if you want, I would recommend that Cholesterol Clarity, because it's those guys, they know what they're talking about. All right. Let's see. Deadly Beauty. She asks, does MCT oil help your brain? Okay. Ketones help your brain. Ketones are created through fat. So, yes, MCT oil can help your brain. Now, there's different kinds of MCT oil. There's C8, there's C10, there's C12, there's a C6. Now, what I recommend is a C8 or a C10. Now, those two, and I think I've discussed this in other videos, they go straight into your blood system. All right? That C8 will go straight into your blood, gives you that energy. It's really good for a pre-workout. And one of the other benefits of a C8 is that it doesn't upset your stomach like some of the other Cs, like a C12 will. Now, C12 kind of make you a little bit nauseous. And if you get too much of it in you, that's why they try to tell you to, just gradually bring in MCT oil slowly into your foods, into that bulletproof coffee meal I made. I can handle a lot of MCT oil now because I've been doing this for a long time. And I also go with pretty much strictly C8, and I'll do a C8 and a C10 if I find that oil. The reason I don't like the C12 real quick is because the C12 is more of a long chain triglyceride, and it has to go through the liver to get processed into energy, and it takes a little while for it to actually be beneficial. So if for a pre-workout, I like the MCT for that boost of energy. That's why people put it in their coffee instead of coconut oil, because it gives them that boost of energy. All right? I hope that answers that question. So MCT oil, in a way, is very beneficial to the brain because it provides those ketones, and the brain loves ketones versus glycogen. It really does. All right. Lindy Hawthorne. Confused by salt and blood pressure. All right. On the ketogenic diet, they recommend that you actually take in more salt. And the reason is when you first start the ketogenic diet, that very first week you get all excited because you lost a lot of weight. Now that weight, again, is water weight, and it's because your carbohydrates and your sugars hold water. Like each carbohydrate holds about 3.7 grams of water. So it's a lot of puffiness, a lot of water weight that gets lost in the very beginning. Because once you burn off all those carbohydrates and all that glycogen storage, it takes all that water with it. Now, the problem that you're going to run into with it taking all that water is that it takes a lot of electrolytes with it. And without those electrolytes, you will get the keto flu. Now, a way to avoid that keto flu is to consume some bone broth. That actually gives you a lot of electrolytes. Make sure you supplement your magnesium and your potassium and also your sodium. Bring your sodium level back up. So on the ketogenic diet, you're going to bring that sodium level back up, and to help with the nausea, the energy, and stuff like that. Now, you still have to keep track of your blood pressure. There are cases where salt will increase your blood pressure, but keep an eye on that. Just check with your doctor. Check with like daily checkups on how your blood pressure is going. A lot of times you could feel the difference. Like for me, when my blood pressure used to be high, I used to get that shaky feeling, and I would know when my blood pressure is high. Or even when I prick my finger for a blood test, for a glucose monitor test, and if I squeeze my finger, if the blood just barely comes out or just kind of puddles right there, that's good. Now, I've had it where my blood pressure is so high I squeeze my finger, and not to gross anybody out, but it shoots up like crazy. It just shoots up, and I'm like, whoa, just from a little pinprick, and that's what's crazy. So I know my blood pressure is pretty high then, and I will cut back on my salts, and I will try to, believe it or not, meditate kind of. I try to relax myself, try to get into a calm place, and for me, that brings my blood pressure down real quick, real easy, and it's just my own little method that I use, and you could try it if you want. Anyway, all right. Jennifer 14 asks, what's the best way to get all the foods in to match your macros? Okay. There is no best way. You want to eat those fatty meats because your best fat is going to be from animal fats. Your next, and that would include the butter, okay? Grass-fed butter. It's not going to be like your country crock butter. It's not the same, okay? You want to get in some of those avocados. You want to get in some of those olives. You want to get in some of those very healthy fats, and that's going to get your fats up. The healthy or the fatty meats, that meat is also going to help with your proteins. All right, so that's going to get your proteins in. And then with greens or your carbs, it's greens. I like the leafy greens. I like the spinach because of all the other vitamins and stuff that it's going to give you. I like the I like the kale. I like the mustard greens. I like beet greens. I like the broccoli raw, and I made a supplement shake or a smoothie, and I put all that stuff in and I grind it all up and I drink that down. Now there's times where I don't have that time to eat those greens, so there's days where I don't have any carbs, and I don't just, at the end of the day, I'm not just going to say, well, gosh, it's so late at night and now I've got to eat all my carbs. I don't do it that way. If it's not perfect, it's just not perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect every day. It's not always going to be that 75-25 split. It's not always going to be that 200, 100, and 20. It's just not, okay? But you try to do the best you can at it, and that's all that people can ask. Another question I get asked by a lot of people is how do I track my macros or my calories, or how do I keep track of all mine? Well, I've told you how I do that BMR, and I break down my proteins and my carbs and my fats. So I kind of have that general idea in my head that I know I have to have 181 to 200 grams of protein. And I know that are of fats, and I know that's roughly around 1,600 calories. So whatever package I'm looking at, I know how to read it because I've looked at them a lot. I've looked at the calories, I've looked at the grams, and I know that those are I could track them that way. And I use a pen and a piece of paper, notebook, and I will track them down. I will write them down. For me, that's the easiest way. Now, I know there's people out there that love MyFitnessPal. I've tried it. It's kind of confusing. I guess if you work at it and you understand it, but I don't like the whole stress part of a nutrition program. So if I'm stressing about keeping track of this stuff, then there's a chance that stress is going to cause a cortisol buildup in me, and cortisol will cause me to gain weight. And I don't want that. I don't want it. So I just simply write it down on a piece of paper. I don't stress over it. I have an idea what I'm supposed to eat every day because I've calculated it out prior. And as I lose weight, I will check that BMR every once in a while just to give an idea and give myself a ballpark number of each one that I'm going to do. Now, I hope that all these answer some of the major questions, the most important questions, and I hope that I didn't explain it too awkwardly and hard for you to understand. If you have questions, please ask them. I will definitely try to keep track or try to answer these questions as I get them with you, and I will also maybe put more of these Q&As out there so that people that are experiencing these same dilemmas or have these same concerns or have these same questions will be able to find the answers in a video like this. Okay, because my goal really is to help you guys, because like I said before, when I was doing this, there wasn't anybody to ask. There wasn't anybody. It was all trial and error. It was all, how do I do this? How do I do that? You know, and going to seminars and trying to write so many notes down and trying to keep track of everything, what they're saying, and how to answer my own questions. Google was a big part of my research. I Googled everything, and then I would fact check it numerous times over to make sure that the site I was getting wasn't different than the next site or wasn't different than the next site. So I'm just basically I'm paying this forward. I'm trying to give you guys as much of the information that I've researched over the years. I'm trying to give you stuff that I've succeeded with, stuff that I've failed with, and that I don't want you to fail with, and that's why I do these videos. Okay, so if you have any questions, please comment below. Please hit me up in my Facebook, whatever way makes it easier for you. And if you don't want your question or your name mentioned, just let me know. But it's up to you. Okay. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Please like the video. Please share the video. It's my only source of advertisement. Thanks. See you next video. Bye, guys.